everybody? This is your host, Brother Sean Brumfield, and I'm here to bring you another awesome, fun episode. And today in the studio, it's just me and Brother Ryan.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm doing outstanding.
Another day in paradise?
Oh, yeah. What do they say? If I'm doing any better, I'd be in heaven.
You know, what was one of the things that I always heard growing up, like in high school and stuff, all the older guys be like, living a dream. Living a dream, man. And half the time I'd have to look at them and be like, must be a nightmare.
Yeah. It's kind of funny when you hear that, because my grandpa would tell me all the time, he'd say, they used to tell me these would be my golden years. You know, he lived up to be, I think he was 82 before he passed away.
Wow.
And he would say, he'd even say it from the pulpit, you know. He'd say, whoever said these were the golden years was lying.
A man I grew up going to church with, he would say all the time, growing old ain't for sissies.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My dad will say that.
I have yet to find out if that's true or not.
You know, I'm not old by any stretch of the means, but I can say that my body doesn't recuperate like it used to.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Those inherited traits.
Yeah, they come bite.
They kind of come and bite you, and when they do, it happens rather quickly. You know,
I can't say that I've experienced that as much as others, but I will tell you what, I have met some guys that are like, you know, my age, you know, mid-20s, early 30s, and they act like they're 80 years old, and it's like, dude, you haven't even started living. Like, what are you going to do before retirement age?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know my history anyway, going to church, and you know, you lived with me for several months before you married Melissa. But when I turned like 35, and it sounds funny because, like I say, I'll say this, I'm not old. Mm-hmm. I still consider, now my dad will tell me that I'm middle-aged. Brother Carlos, our assistant pastor, will fight to say that I'm not middle-aged. So, and
he's preached on that.
And the only reason why he fights is because he's not too far behind me.
Yeah, he don't want to admit it.
Yeah, but and listen to this podcast. I know I'll get a text message or something about this. But when turning 35, the biggest issue, and it's hereditary, and you don't really think of these things. So now that I'm getting older, I kind of think of this stuff that, okay, heart disease, things like that. Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff's relevant. You know, sugar. Everybody can go through the list of stuff. But the one thing that I never thought I'd have any issues with, because I never had trouble with, was my back.
Yeah.
And they told me that I had the thinning of the spine, which caused my vertebrae, two of my discs, to bulge. And I went, well, I'm, you know, getting ready to turn 39. I went like 4 years that way, you know, 3 years roughly.
Yeah. Where
I was having pain and all that stuff. I figured it was my hip. Never even thought about it. But when I finally, you know, we finally got down to the root of the matter, and I talked to a back specialist, and they told me what it was, my dad would say, yeah, your grandpa had it. I got it. And my dad's advice was, don't let them do surgery. Because once they start, they don't stop. And he's had 3 major back surgeries himself. So it's kind of one of those deals as you kind of get older, you know, you don't take anything for granted, and you definitely start paying more attention to what your body tells you.
Genetics is wild, man. The stuff that almost inescapable unless, you know, God moves on things like that. My dad has back issues as well. And I pray every day, Lord, don't let me, I don't want to experience any of that, because he was out for months. And I remember Dad only worked, Mom didn't work. And so when he couldn't go back, there was no paycheck coming in, and that fear of, you know, we might not have electricity, let alone even a house if something don't happen. But back issues is a whole nother beast compared to any other pain you could ever experience.
Oh, it is.
With the nerves.
It is. It's like I said, it was one of those deals where when you look back into the family history, it was hereditary. I inherited it. Thankfully, my story goes, they were going to do surgery, and I'm very thankful that none of that happened, and I don't have any back issues today, and that's because my baby girl we had a wonderful service one night, and she was feeling the power of the Lord. It's the only way to explain it. And she went to my wife, and she was talking to her, and she was crying and said, I don't want Daddy to be in pain anymore. And so Becca was telling her that, you have the authority
right.
as a child of God to pray for him, and by faith we can believe. And she basically encouraged her, go pray for your daddy and believe that he's going to be, healed. And she came and she was sobbing that whole walk to me.
Right.
She was sobbing. I didn't know that conversation happened. And she came up to me and she said, Daddy, I want to pray for you. Of course, she's, there's more emotion to it than what I'm saying, because like I said, she's sobbing, she's doing all this. At this time, I was limping. I couldn't, I was standing like an S. It's the only way that I can, kind of hunched over and leaning over to the side and all that fun stuff. I thought I hit it very well, but looking back.
No, he didn't. He definitely did not.
And she did. She just wrapped her arms around me. And I mean, man, she bawled. Never said a word. I never heard her utter one word, but God heard the tears. That's the only thing that I can explain. He knew what she was praying in herself. God seen that faith. And so I prayed, Lord, bolster her faith.
Right.
It's kind of funny. I wasn't praying for my healing at that time. And it's not because I didn't have any confidence in my daughter, but I wanted that to be an experience for her.
Yeah.
More so than just me getting healed. Of course, I wanted to get healed. I didn't want to do any of that stuff that they were saying. And we got in the car, and I felt better that night before we left church, but like I was still crooked. I was still in pain. It just wasn't as unbearable. I could sit down without having to move every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
We got in the car and she said, Daddy, do you feel better? And I said, well, baby, I feel a little better. I do definitely feel different than I did when I came to church. And she said, I prayed that God would heal you tomorrow. And I always laugh about that. I'm kind of thinking, well, tonight would have been great.
Yeah.
But
thanks, baby.
That was on a Wednesday, and it didn't happen instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday into Thursday, when I woke up Wednesday night was the first time that I think I got more than 3 hours of sleep, because I could actually lay down and sleep. And then by the time Friday rolled around, I've never been one to bend down and touch my toes, but I could bend down and pick something up off the floor without any pain. And to this day, that's been, what was that, before Thanksgiving of last year?
Yeah. I remember that night, and I remember it wasn't a crazy service.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't, people going out, hanging off the chandeliers or anything like that. But it was just a simple, I remember it being a sweet spirit that night. I remember it being very encouraging. And sometimes I think we get that misconception that if somebody doesn't shout or somebody don't scream, something doesn't happen, that nothing happens. And that was just a simple reminder of, hey, it doesn't take much for me to move.
She just got tired of the situation.
Yep.
And I'm going on several months now. And I will say this, because, God touched me. There's no doubt about that. I don't walk crooked no more. I don't have pain. I can lay down in my bed without it bothering me. Now, it's kind of funny, obviously. I think it's God's way of saying, I didn't heal you, so you can't do anything. If I lay down too long,
time to get up.
It's time to get up. But
yeah.
I like 4 hours of sleep anyway, and then I'm up early. But I keep in mind, because there's a misconception that if God heals you, you'll never have to go through that again.
Yeah.
And I don't read anywhere in my Bible where it says that. It's somebody told me one time, because there was this particular situation, and I won't go into any of that, but there was a particular situation with a loved one of mine who knew that God had touched them, but then they had to go right back into the, like, several years later, a few years later, they fought that same battle, and that attack, people's going to say, well, that was false, God didn't touch you and all this stuff, which was not true whatsoever.
Right.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, Brother Steve Allen, and he said, where does your Bible ever tell you that if God touches you of this thing, you're never going to have to face it again? And I got to thinking about that. I I've heard that, but I've never read it. And he said, think about it this way. He said, where's Lazarus?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
He said, Lazarus still died, but God touched him then. And so I keep that in the back of my mind, and I know my heritage, what I inherit as far as genetics go and stuff. So God healed me, but now I kind of keep it at the forefront. Make sure you're a little smarter than you were.
Yeah, we have to take every little thing that God does for us and use wisdom behind it in order to keep it. Sometimes it's not the first time that God moves that we get the total healing either.
Right.
I got a theme with the man that, the Lord spit on his eyes and began to pray for him. And he said, well, what do you see? He says, well, I see men as trees.
Yeah.
And then, he's telling the Lord, this ain't good enough for me. I want to see the way it used to be. Because that's something too, is that, he was able to describe what he was seeing. So, he could see before, and here he is in this element. I don't know. It's just crazy to see. We think that, and it's not necessarily that God can't do it in one trip, or God, doesn't keep us away from those things. It's just as simple of sometimes it's just you have a test or a belief of saying, I believe you can do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, I think could God have healed me that night? I don't know why it went from Wednesday to Thursday to Friday. By the time Sunday rolled around, I was like walking like a different person. We come back to church and it was, and it still is. Like I said, I could jump up and down. I can somewhat bend down and touch my toes. I said, I've never been able to do that, but I don't have to wince. I don't have to, I don't have to twist myself in a certain way. I don't live without any relief. I'm not in pain consistently. Mm-hmm. I don't know why God didn't do it that day, but it kind of taught me something though, where I kind of left there really wanting to be healed.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't really pray, Lord, heal me, I just prayed, Lord, bless my daughter, bless her faith. I was kind of like, there's no way in the world I'm leaving here today in pain.
Yeah.
But it made me kind of focus on when I sat down, I kind of went, like I said, it's different. I'm not out of pain, but it's not like it was. I feel some type of something. Yeah. And then when I got up the next day, it was like, man, I actually rested. I could, and I felt different. I still, again, was in a little bit of pain, but I could tell a difference. And it kind of got me to the point where I would start saying, okay, Lord, what are you going to do today? I'd wake up the next, and it's actually kind of funny. I've kind of adopted that now, going into church and going to something like that. I feel like we sell God short in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If it doesn't happen right now, they call it the microwave age. You can
get it my way.
You throw something in the microwave and it's 5 minutes, and it's not a home cooked meal, but you can eat a meal that satisfies at least your hunger. You don't have to wait. You don't have to be patient. You don't have to delve. You can just basically pop it in the microwave. And sometimes that's what we want. We want God just to, real quick. I've kind of got to the point now where I'm like, okay, Lord, what do you got in store today?
Yeah. I've learned to come to a place where when I go through something, it's often trying to teach something, trying to get me to understand something. And I've come to a point in my life where I will just simply ask God, all right, Lord, what am I missing right now? Mm-hmm. What is the thing, and something guilty to say, trying to get out of it quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, surely if it was something that I'm supposed to learn from it, the sooner I learn from it, the quicker I'll get out of it, which isn't always the case. Sometimes that trial's a little bit longer than what we expect it to be. But I don't know, man. Sometimes it's just better to take back and take that thought process of there's something to be observed here.
Yeah. It is God works in the now, right? Yeah. So I've learned to, and I'm still learning, definitely haven't perfected any craft whatsoever. You continue to learn. Mm-hmm. But I'm definitely learning, and a whole lot better at I'm gonna take in this moment. I want to take in this now. you know, and then when we go 10 minutes from now, God's still working in that now. Now, granted, I don't always see something in that course. I can't say that every single day I felt that God had done something major, but at the same time, I can leave each and every single day feeling his presence and knowing that he's there. So you just you don't take anything for granted. You just live for the now and trust and believe in the Lord, and everything's going to work out. So whatever happens, happens.
That's the easiest way to talk about it and to bring it down.
I say it all the time on the pulpit, man. If we could really just sit down and just talk about what God has done for us.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the book of John, you know, where it said that this is what was written, and I'm not gonna read this word for word verbatim, but we're just gonna kind of sum it up. The book of John, it ends basically saying, here's some of the works that Christ had done, but it doesn't cover all of them.
Right.
Because if you wrote down all the works that Christ had done, there's not a book in the earth that could contain it.
To contain all the wonders and miracles.
And there's not really, I mean, if I sit down in my 39 years of life, there's not a big enough book, if I truly sat down and got honest, that could contain every single thing that God has done, you know, for me in my life. It's wonderful. We're just getting through celebrating Easter. You know, the last podcast we kind of ended on that. I'm a miracle, and it's basically because of salvation. It's really a reflective time of what all he has done for us.
Being able to look back and just see the goodness of the Lord, and being able to just see, you know, all that he's given for us, how he sent his son for us and that we could live. And, you know, Isaiah talks a lot about, you know, our chastisement of our peace was upon him, and goes through all those wonderful things that he did, just not only to accomplish salvation, but so that through him we could honestly just have life and have it more abundantly. Yeah, as other writers have stated before. And to just look back and to just think about the brutality that he had suffered. Yeah. It just kind of, if you can't go through those stories and it doesn't ever bring a tear to your eye, you know, then there's something greater that we need to look into.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's always something worth looking at. Yeah. And really just pondering. We got to take the time. We love, and on this podcast, we love to laugh. We love to give each other a hard time. We love to tell the jokes. We love to read the stories, and we love to do that. But also at the same time, first and foremost, all the glory has to go to God.
Absolutely.
All the glory has to go to God. So I'm very thankful, you know, very thankful for the good days that he gives us.
Yeah.
You know?
Thankful for the opportunities to be able to do what he's called us to do and set us into a position where we can, you know, especially like this podcast, be able to share the goodness of God. Yeah. You know, I think that's what it all comes down to. Like you said, we main focus here is kind of a little bit of entertainment, you know, kind of have a good day, kind of pull people away from some of those things. But if we can't get in and shed a little bit of Christ in people's lives and bring it back to God, it's, you know, it's all for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely a way that we can do. And I will say it's actually having an effect on somebody. We've got some fan mail all of a sudden.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of fan mail.
Yeah.
That we need to go over and eventually do a Facebook Live with and kind of share what we've got here. But actually our advertising guy felt like he had something to contribute to, and he sent us a wandering Bigfoot clock that is about the size of my head, and I
think it's longer than your head.
You think so?
Yeah,
it's bigger.
Yeah, I think it's bigger, but it's kind of funny because, you know, obviously the whole Bigfoot thing. We went into those conversations, and my ADD with your clock that you had before. So it kind of works in both ways. It's Bigfoot. His legs are on a pendulum, so it looks like he's walking, and he took away the digital. Now it's analog.
All the digital's there. It's just kind of covered by a box.
Yeah.
We just can't see it.
Yeah. Right now. So now I'm just sitting here staring off in space, watching the Bigfoot feet. go back and forth.
Just let them walk around in your mind a little bit about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Jared. I love it.
I got to tell you guys something. The first night I had that put up, I was leaving my computer, got done with just a night of, just looking through stuff for the podcast and stuff. And I turn around and I seen that thing moving and it scared me to death. I forgot it was there. I really did. And so I had to rebuke it in Jesus' name first, because who knows what it was. But that's not the only thing we got. We got a neon sign that says warning, and it has Bigfoot walking across the top of it. And my brother sent me that, and then he also sent me a tin sign that said warning for the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
So the story behind that is I sent him I FaceTimed him a video of Bigfoot up there, and he got in his mind, he said, well, I'm not going to let Brother Jared outdo me. So then the next day we're sitting there talking, and then he's like, oh, do you got any packages yet? I'm like, what do you mean packages? He goes, oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. Then I came home that day, and they were ready to be hung up.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Truly do love it. It's a wonderful thing. It brings a lot of laughter every time I look at it.
And to think about it, I was so worried to post those Bigfoot episodes because I thought people were going to be like, what in the world are these guys talking about?
What did we just tune into?
Yeah. These guys are Christians? Like, what in the world, But it turns out you guys are big enough, lunatics as we are. You guys like it just as much as we do.
There you go. We're all a little crazy in our own way, I guess. So, but no, in all honesty, thank you very much for the fan mail. It's great.
Yeah, we're working towards eventually. I don't know I know we keep talking about getting video, and that'll come in due time. We're looking into possibly doing a Patreon page or something of that sort. And if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, feel free to let us know. Give us a comment on whatever site you're listening to. Or you can email us at pulpittothepew@gmail.com. And speaking of those, I do have a couple emails to read in regards to the show here, and I will get those pulled up here. I know we kind of mentioned Brother Ben Brown's email last week, and I have it here that I can read to you all.
Well, some of it.
Yeah. Because I can barely speak English. I may have to post this on the Facebook for people. So let's see here. So Ben says, since you guys mentioned the hippopotamus-sized word above,
guys, if you're not mistaken, that is the or if you can't recall, that is the word that is the fear of long words. And
just to try it, it is hippopotamustrosis quipedophilophobia. Pedaliophobia. Y'all, that's the best effort that I have for you today. And Benjamin says, since you guys mentioned that word, here's the word in different languages. And to be fair, most of these are in characters that I can't.
Yeah, Asian.
He has it in Arabic, Chinese, German, Hindi, Italian, which looks like hippopotamusquidiophobia, which is almost the same word, except there's no H at the beginning.
I love the fact that you tried to put a accent to that, dude.
And what's a pizza? Just a pizza. He said it in Japanese.
Do that one.
Ching chang chong coin coin wong. Fortune cookie always wrong. He sent it in Korean. Best of luck, everybody. Portuguese, Brazilian, Spanish, which is pretty much the same word, but just imagine Antonio Banderas saying it when you say it. He sent it in Thai, Turkish, and Vietnamese. And his little comment at the end says, keep up the good work. So thanks, Benjamin. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ben.
I promise, guys, we do not prompt him to write us.
No, in all honesty, he is my boy, but I don't pay him. So He does that on his own. And I will say, in all honesty, he's the reason why I chose that word. He's how I knew that word existed.
He's so intelligent, dude.
Yeah.
Then the next email I have is from Brother Emerson Allen. And let me get his pulled up here. It says from Emerson Allen. Emerson Allen. I'm going to have to fix that in editing. From Emerson Allen. I did it again.
It did it again,
oh,
man.
My word.
I don't think you edited it at this point. I think you just leave it in there.
I might have to. From Emerson Allen. There you go. Bro Sean, you have a great family of podcasters on your podcast. The Brown family, they have Reverend Brown, Ben Brown, and Pastor Ryan Brown. Reverend Ben doesn't like being called Rev sometimes, but he can still be funny sometimes. All right to the better man of the Brown family, Pastor Ryan. He can get the word of the week on spot every single time. He is the best podcaster ever. He has awesome jokes, and when it comes to religion, oh boy, can this guy get it. He can get his points across in like 3 seconds. P.S. Brother Ryan did tell me to brag on him. Thank you, brother, for the podcast. God bless.
Yeah, I did. I didn't have to pay him either. No, he was. Where were we at? I can't remember. I think we were at something for the school, 'cause him and my boy go to school together, and we were at something for the school, and he was talking to Ben about how to leave messages.
Yeah,
and I knew he was doing it. I was standing right there, and I said, "Listen," I said, "if you're going to write an email, you got to make sure that you brag about me. Something about how I'm your favorite one on the podcast, or something like that."
Oh my word.
I mean, I'm great friends with the Allen family anyway, so
right.
I knew teasing with him. He must not have ever heard me preach. I don't know that I've ever got a point across in 3 seconds.
He's heard you on the podcast.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, though, Emerson. I truly do appreciate that. We also, and these are kind of back in March. We're a little late in reading these. We didn't get notifications.
Yeah, I didn't realize that these were left until somebody had let Brother Ryan know that they had left a review, and I had to go back and look into them.
So we've got some Apple reviews, and so we got 5 stars from Brother Devin Birdsong. He says, "Gentlemen, thanks for the content. God bless you for all you're doing." Brother Birdsong, we truly do appreciate you. Obviously, I've reached out to him on several occasions, just on some things when we do the podcast. Pod and Me really is kind of the foundational podcast that, if I would say, he took off on in 2020, and those guys there in Oklahoma are just doing an outstanding job. So.
We want to be like him when we grow up.
Yeah. Now this one here is 2 stars. So this wasn't on our best day, and it says beat your wife. And actually, that was a law until a man did it to his wife, and they tried to prosecute and realized they should probably change it. And that's from Tam's 27 Symbols. So to recall back to this episode, that's when we started doing the goofy laws.
The crazy laws, yeah.
And this was in Arkansas, where it said that it was against the law for a man to beat his wife unless he's on the steps of the
courthouse or something
something like that. Obviously, that we just read that on a website of stupid laws.
I promise I do not beat my wife on the stage house.
Nor would we ever say that it's something that should be done.
Yeah, no.
So
disclaimer there.
So that's a disclaimer for sure. There's no way that I would ever condone that in any way, shape, or form. That is a law. I would say that if it's still in practice, it does need to be changed.
You better hide your wives, hide your children.
So here's another one that's 5 stars. It says, "Great podcast / period, get the ... That's the title.
Yeah, I don't think it'll let us click on it.
And this is, "Hey brothers, I've been enjoying your podcast. I used to listen to Pod and Me, but you all switched me. LOL. Keep up the goated podcast. Get Reverend Ben back on. Great podcast." And this again is from the Emerson Goat 2035, which is brother Emerson. And I will say, don't stop listening to Pod and Me.
Yeah, go back and listen to Pod and Me.
We are all in this together. So we do thank you for the reviews, and everybody that takes time out of their day to listen to us. We are very appreciative of that.
Yeah, it makes it totally worth whatever time we devote to this, to be able to know that people are enjoying, what we're doing, and that we're a blessing to some people.
For sure. So moving forward, I come across this really funny news story I think you'll enjoy. Have you ever been one to want to fly in a helicopter?
No.
Really?
No. I've enjoyed. It took me forever to get on an airplane. I was scared to death to do that. Then found out I loved it, but I just don't think I would be too happy to fly around with scissors.
I think it would be neat. It's definitely an aerodynamic marvel.
Yeah, for
how
sure.
they fly. I think it would be neat. However, the one thing that is the scariest part of helicopters is if they crash.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That's one of the reasons I don't want to get on it.
Because there's not a whole lot to really save you.
No.
So I found this news article, and it's about a helicopter crash. And before I go any farther into this, nobody was hurt in this crash. So I wouldn't read it if it was people's lives. I don't find humor in tragedy.
Well, just a side note here. The last story you shared
was a dude causing a pileup. I didn't share that. I was just asking, like, yeah, maybe there's a theme to my newscast.
It's morbid.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, right? So here's the title of this news story. Helicopter crash in South Africa blamed on unsecured penguin.
Oh my goodness.
How do you not read this news article? I mean, that in and of itself is, how do you have an unsecured penguin?
So was the penguin on the helicopter?
Yeah, in the helicopter. Not on it, in it.
I'm not great with literature and grammar.
So here's the first paragraph of this. The South African Civil Aviation Authority, that's the SACAA, said a low-altitude helicopter crash that didn't result in any injuries was caused by an unusual passenger famous for its lack of flight experience, a penguin. What a great first sentence.
He's like, I can't fly,
Neither
and
can
neither
you.
should you.
So here's what happens. This pilot and 3 passengers, they fly to an island. It's called Bird Island off the Eastern Cape in South Africa. And a passenger described as a specialist, and they put that in quotation marks. We don't know what he's a specialist of, but this passenger is described as a specialist. He places a penguin from the island in a cardboard box and brings it onto the helicopter.
Oh my word.
So they land on Bird Island. They penguin nap this penguin. They put it in a cardboard box.
What a word.
And they put it in the helicopter. Okay. And so the pilot conducts a risk assessment of the flight, but it says this: he omitted to include the carriage or transportation of the penguin on board. So essentially what they're saying is he wasn't placed in the proper transportation equipment. He's in a cardboard box.
How do you figure out what is the proper?
A cage that, well, we'll get into something. It'll go a little bit deeper. So the passenger riding in the front seat of the helicopter, you have 3 passengers, right? You've got your pilot, you've got the one in the front, and I'm assuming there's a back seat if there's 3 passengers. So the passenger that was the specialist has the penguin in the cardboard box. He's sitting as the co-pilot in that, front seat area. He's got the penguin in a cardboard box, and he's holding the cardboard box in his lap. It's not secured to anything. It's by his grips, a live bird in a box.
This sounds
that he's
terrible.
holding on to. So
terrible.
When the pilot goes to take off, the passenger loses his grip on the cardboard box, and the cardboard box slips over onto the gyro stick. Let's see, what do they call that? Cyclic pitch control lever. So the lever that causes it to the helicopter go up, down, and turn left or right. The penguin in the box slides into that stick and causes the helicopter to take a deep right pitch.
Oh my word.
And they were so low to the ground that when the helicopter rolls to the right, it strikes the ground with its rotors. So essentially what it did is it basically just turned that whole helicopter on its side. And the blades went into went into the island.
That sounds terrifying, dude.
So the report said the helicopter, which landed on its side, sustained serious damage, but no human or penguin passengers were harmed. So here is the assessment. The lack of secure containment for the penguin created a dangerous situation. The absence of a proper secured crate meant that the penguin's containment was not suitable for the flight conditions. No duh.
Really? That's crazy that got away that much. I mean,
Well, again, quote unquote specialist stealing a penguin off the island. You kind of wonder what in the world they had in mind. What were they doing? We're going to hold this penguin for ransom.
he was like, we're going to do a live action Happy Feet.
and Mr. Penguin said, that ain't happening on my watch.
So that island that they went to, that was by Africa? Or is,
South Africa. It's right off the Cape.
how do penguins get down there?
Well, it's a common misconception that all penguins stay in Antarctica.
Well, I know that there's penguins in like New York and stuff like that.
There's
Like on the
penguins in
island,
warm
like on
in
the
warm weather.
Beaches and stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't know they were actually in Africa.
Well, see, not only do you hear a funny story, but you learn something new.
My cousin's going to love this story. He is a crazy penguin nut. I'm serious, man. He says they are classy. They're little birds in tuxedos.
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, some of them are. And then some of them look like they got the Donald Trump hairdo and they got that crazy yellow that comes out the side.
Yeah, those are macaroni penguins.
Is that what it's called, macaroni?
Yeah, seriously, macaroni
I thought
penguins.
they were called macaron or something like that.
I'm pretty sure they're macaroni penguins. Hold on. I will look it up because if not, then I'll just sound stupid on the podcast, which is fine.
We do that anyway.
It's the ADD. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, macaroni penguin. Which it doesn't matter if it's macaron. That's still an edible thing. But yeah, it's macaroni.
It sure is. It says macaroni. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that's what they were called. I thought they were like Macons or Macoons or something like that.
Yeah.
Dude, that's hilarious.
I don't know why I remember that.
I'm starting to get curious myself.
It goes back to what I said some time ago. I'm a retainer of very stupid information.
Well, talk about retaining information. Let's see if you know what this is. Word of the day.
I got to do this. Word of the day. Brother Jonathan's not here to do it.
He'll be here in spirit. The word that I have today is snickersnee.
Snickersnee?
Snickersnee. And it is one word.
So it's not Snickers knee.
Right.
Huh.
Or Snickers knee.
Is it spelled Knee?
Nope.
Or just
Nope.
so
Snickers snee.
Snickers.
It's a real word, I promise.
It's when you have an allergic reaction to a Snicker. You can't quite fully say sneeze.
What happened to him? He had a Snicker knee.
I've got this really funny thought of those hungry Y-Weight commercials going on and some dude's sneeing.
You're not you when you're hungry. No, you want to have another guess?
I'm not going to get any better than that, man.
Okay, believe it or not, it's actually a noun.
Okay.
And it's a knife, especially one used as a weapon, which I don't know why that's part of there because aren't most knives used for weapons other than like a cooking knife, I guess. But people use those as weapons too. So,
well, I would say a butter knife, but you can cut yourself on a butter knife.
I won't say if I have or not. That's to be disclosed later.
I will say that it hurts if you do.
Have you been there for that?
Yeah. I've cut myself with a butter knife.
That's hilarious.
I don't know how I did it, but I did.
So the origin of the word is from the 1690, 1700s. It's a variant of the earliest of stick or snee, to thrust or cut. And it's from Dutch of stekken, to stick. And then you add the schneed indeed to cut. That's what that means. I think that's how it is. Schneed and then in to cut. So,
Snickersnee.
Snickersnee.
So it's a knife.
Yeah. I'm going to get you with a Snickersnee. I felt threatened.
Hold on, let me get my Snickersnee out.
Get my Snickersnee.
I've heard of a samurai sword. Yeah, that's about the only sword I've ever heard of.
Here's-
Katana, you know.
Here's You only did about 10 days work yesterday in 10 minutes swinging this frightful sneakers knee of yours.
How's that in a sentence? How does that work in a sentence?
I feel like they use that incorrectly because it's supposed to be for a weapon, but they're talking about a tool on this one.
Does it show a picture of what it looks like?
No, but let's
is it a machete or a hatchet
go back
type deal
to the Googs.
Because if you use it in that way, it almost sounds like it's a machete of sorts.
So Google officially says a large knife, especially one used as thrusting and cutting weapon, or a fight with such knives. That's literally what it says, Ryan. I'm not kidding.
A large knife, especially one used as a thrusting and cutting weapon, or a fight with such knives.
So it's a verb.
Well, if you look at the picture, it does look like a big machete.
It looks like a giant machete.
I mean,
my word.
There's nothing special to it. Google's having fun with that one.
That looks like a filleting knife.
It does. So then it's not a machete.
No.
It looks like something you'd fillet a catfish with.
It looks like one of my mom's old stainless steel paring knives with a fillet.
Yeah. So maybe we're calling fillet knives wrong. Maybe it's not fillet knives. Maybe they're Snickers knees. I'm going to have to tell my mom you're not selling those in your store because you're naming them wrong.
Hey, I need to fillet this fish. Can I have that Snickers knee?
Give me that Snickers knee. Why does it sound, again, it goes right back to Appalachia. Why does that sound like something that somebody in the Appalachia would use?
Dude, I don't know, but it makes me think.
When I say it, I automatically want to go to a Southern accent. And I don't mean that in any bad way, shape, or form. It literally
makes me want to laugh. Like, snicker, tee-hee. That's what I think of when I hear it. Tee-hee, tee-hee.
Oh, that was good. Snickers knee.
It sounds like you could use it as a verb with that last portion saying that, or a fight with knives is what it was saying too.
Yeah, but I don't know how you would use that as a verb.
I don't know.
Snickers need you.
What happened to Johnny? He got caught in a Snickers knee.
Well, a Snickers knee got caught in him.
He got Snickers kneed by a Snickers knee.
I heard that flump. What was that? It was a Snickers knee.
Yeah. It's terrible, man.
That's a pretty good word.
Snickers knee. So we've had flump, hippo. I'm not going to do the rest of it because I tried that. I even give it to you in Italian. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
In Italian, somewhat.
So hippo, flump, cattywampus, and then flump.
You said flump like 3 times.
I know, because this is flumping. And then what was Jonathan's word?
I can't remember.
Sorry, John.
Sorry, Jonathan. I was racking my brain.
I'm trying to figure it out myself.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, sorry, John. You have to text us later about it.
Yeah. Text us and let us know. Maybe I was too busy trying to figure out what your little digital watch was trying to do over there.
What was John's word? 8888.
ADD. That's what it was. I had a cousin one time that was, we were playing games and you know, he was diagnosed with ADHD, so I'm not making fun of it whatsoever, but because it is a legitimate issue with people. I do think in some ways I've got a touch of it. I just
on occasion.
I'll put it this way. I think a lot of preachers have a touch of ADHD. But that aside, we were playing games and he done something and it was like just one of those where you just look at somebody and wonder, you really can't be that dumb to do what you're doing. Like, you know,
yeah.
It was just kind of one of those looks. And he said, in his flustered motion, he said, "Give me a break. I'm ODD." Yeah, you are odd, but that's beside the point.
For sure. You're just giving us ammo, pal.
You are odd. That is for sure.
Did you want to Snickers knee him when he got done?
No, not then. That was just one of those deals where you want to just kind of whop him on the back of the head. My dad used to do that to me a lot.
Stupid.
He never called me stupid. He would whack me on the back of the head and say, "Work with me, not against me."
Trying, Dad.
Yeah.
Was your dad one of those that if you couldn't hold the flashlight just right, it would come
man,
after you?
I am very precise with my flashlight holding now as an adult. I think my dad seen something. He was telling me, it was like, I'm not afraid of anything. I used to hold the flashlight for my dad or something like that.
Yeah. How are your boys? Are they good with holding flashlights?
I don't even give it to them. I've perfected it so much at a young age that I hold that flashlight.
You know,
I've even got to where I could put it in my mouth and keep it right where I need it to be.
The guy who made the flashlight that goes on the end of your ball cap,
yeah.
You know he was tired of working with his dad.
Have you seen the gloves?
Well, yeah, with the little fingertips.
I've got 2 of those. While you're working on something, your little gloves light up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've never used it for what they're supposed to be used for. I'm like, hey, turn off the lights. Look at this. Jazz hands.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, doing these crazy light shows with it.
But yeah.
I remember being a kid, Mom and Dad, they had these elastic finger lights that you could put on that were like different colors and stuff. And we would like be on vacation and Mom would like buy us all like one for each hand, like a whole set for each hand. And they'd be like, turn off the lights. We're going to do a light show for everybody. So, like the people on the other side of the campsite were like looking in our little pop up and it was like changing all kinds of colors. And like, what kind of rave are they having in there?
It was good times.
The next morning they get out and there's just like these 3 kids going out, oh no, that was totally awesome.
I remember it's funny now looking at flashlights. They've got flashlights that you can shine that lights up. It's like the sun came out for a split second. So I remember when Maglite was the thing.
Oh yeah,
like the pre-LED time. And to think and to look at that light now, those are dim.
Dude, yeah. I was gonna say like compared to like an Olight or something like that, but even like the $15 LED light you get from Amazon.
Yeah.
Like those things will like burn your retinas out, dude.
What I think is hilarious is looking at those flashlights. Some of them are pretty fat, but for the most part, they're pretty short.
Yeah.
And the best Maglite they come up with was like 5 foot long. You had to rest it on your shoulder as you were twisting around.
Yeah.
We used to have a couple of those when we were camping. We always, my parents would sleep in a camper. And when I got old enough, I didn't want to sleep in a camper. I liked having a tent. And so we'd carry a couple Maglites with us. It was like a 20-pound weight. You have to throw it on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And then he twisted the little top to get it to zoom in or out.
Focus, Jimmy. Now you just like pull them out. Pull them out and push them back in. Yeah.
Yeah, but now you just push a button. It's like daylight.
Yeah. Flashlights are like the ultimate gift for a man. Like you can never have enough of those. Remember that Sunday school we were giving, it was for Father's Day. I think it was Father's Day. And like
we gave all the dads a flashlight.
They started putting flashlights in cups out and you looked at me and went, who wants a flashlight? And I was like, dude, can you ever have enough flashlights? And they're like, nah, ain't nobody gonna grab those. And you know what he does, guys? The first thing he does, he gets off the pulpit and grabs a flashlight. And I'm like, oh, you can never have enough of this. He goes, well, you put it in my mind. Now I had to have it.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the first and only year where we didn't have like one gift for all the men.
Yeah.
They had multiple gifts and you drew your name and you come up and what was there you got. Obviously you wanted to be the first
Look
one
at the
called.
Draw. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. And you said something about the flashlights. You know what's funny? 90% of my flashlights at home don't work because the batteries are dead. I never think about it until like when we had all the storms rolling around and we had that major threat and it's like, oh, the lights are going to go off.
Yeah.
And so like I'm pulling out, I've got like 20 flashlights and I'm like, oh, that one don't work.
Yeah.
And I have no batteries at home.
Well, because in your mindset, you're like, you know what? Batteries cost as much as just getting a new flashlight. I think I'll just get a new flashlight to go with this.
Well, and it's even funny because I was in construction before going full time in the ministry. So I've got construction flashlights, I've got pocket lights, but I did have a lantern that actually lit up.
Like propane lantern? Or?
No.
Oh.
It's a battery powered one that it collapses in on itself when you pull it up, and you always look at it, right? So you pull it up and your eyes are always fixed on it. And it's like against sun, and you're like, I looked in the light, and you're blind for 2 seconds.
My father-in-law's got a couple of those.
Yeah.
I'll go to his house, and I'll just sit on his couch and just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, pull him out. I'm like
Hey,
bored.
Look, again, it goes back to your childhood rave days. I miss those days. On, off, on, off, on, off.
Just
But what's funny about that is, and my sister brought a flashlight over because she has, the same thing that we did. So she brought a flashlight over, and I found that lantern. I had a little headlamp that I use for fishing if we fish at night. I found one of those that actually work. And then she brought another flashlight over. And so I'm thinking, for the first time in severe weather, when they're saying you're not going to have any electricity, I am prepared. I at least found 3 out of the 50 that I own that work. And the electricity doesn't even go off.
So we lost power, unrelated to any weather of all things. I think it was a car accident that happened. And I was so glad that I had my flashlights on charge because I had to go out in the middle of that rain and pull that generator out and get it going. Because, dude, it was raining hard. I mean, but it wasn't enough to knock your power out. There wasn't any tornado warnings or anything like that. But, like, dude, my sump pump was, like, filling up.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God I have this flashlight. And then I get upstairs and we get, everything plugged in and stuff. And we have candles all throughout our house. And rather than Lissa picking up a candle to walk through the house with light, she's walking around with my flashlight, just like looking around like, we don't need to light up this whole place. It's even for an emergency, baby. Like,
that's where you double click them and turn them into those
the strobes.
The strobes. Let's add a little bit of an effect to this electricity going out.
I'll tell you this, man. I couldn't find any of our like power banks or anything like that. Well, I found one, but it wasn't enough to like have kept us for a while. That next morning when the power came on, I went and ordered me a couple power banks.
Yeah, I got to figure out something. I got to put my sump pump on something. I'm going to you can buy those backup.
With the UPS?
Strips, yeah.
Is it a UPS or APS?
Yeah, it's a APS. I believe it is.
Yeah. Something. I thought about getting one of those. I just didn't know how long they last.
We used to put our control systems on them when I worked for who I worked for. We'd put them in control systems.
I've seen people get those Jackeries. Have you seen those?
Mm-mm.
They're like kind of like a power inverter, but like you can run it off solar and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're pretty cool looking, but they're pretty affordable compared to some of like if you just went and got a standard,
Yeah.
I don't know, a huge APS that would last a day or two.
Yeah, yeah, it's something. But thankfully, I had my flashlight so the power doesn't go off.
Dude, I still love flashlights. I every Christmas, number one thing on my list, it's always gonna be flashlights. Bigger, better, brighter.
That's funny. Man, it's been fun.
Yeah, man. I hope we shed some light on some people here.
Yeah.
And inspired you to get some flashlights for when the weather goes bad.
Hey, we're just a couple months away from Father's Day if you need any gift ideas.
Go ahead. Get kids you hearing? Mom, go out and get them a flashlight. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you in on next week.
Thanks, everybody.